Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will turn the pages of The Food of the Gods by H.G. Wells. The Food of the Gods and How It Came to Earth by H.G. Wells is a classic science fiction novel that explores the consequences of scientific hubris. Written in 1904, it tells the story of two scientists, Mr. Bensington and Professor Redwood, who discover a formula they dub the food of the gods. This mysterious substance stimulates tremendous growth in any organism that consumes it, creating giant creatures and, ultimately, even giant humans. Through this speculative tale, Wells investigates the impact of unchecked scientific progress and the unexpected, often uncontrollable repercussions of experimentation on society. Plot summary. In the heart of London, two scientists, Mr. Bensington, a chemist, and Professor Redwood, a physiologist, discover a miraculous compound. Driven by their separate studies, they find themselves united in an ambitious goal: to develop a formula capable of accelerating growth in living organisms. This discovery, initially dubbed Heracleophobia but soon called the food of the gods, hints at a power as profound as it is potentially perilous. The two men, recognizing the significance of their work, are cautious. Yet their enthusiasm and scientific curiosity win out, and they soon resolve to test their food on animals. They lease a remote farm for their experiments, a place where they believe they can safely explore the effects of the food without prying eyes or unwelcome attention. At the farm, Mr. Skinner and his wife are appointed caretakers, responsible for the chickens that will be the first test subjects of the food of the gods. At first, the chicks appear harmless, albeit slightly larger than usual. But as the days go by, they grow at an extraordinary rate, transforming into monstrous fowl towering over the farm. Their size is astounding, yet the farmers are increasingly anxious, feeling that these oversized creatures cannot be contained. In time, the effects of the growth compound reach beyond the confines of the farm. The food is carried inadvertently to other creatures, soon producing massive rats, wasps, and other wildlife that wander beyond the farm's perimeter, spreading terror in the countryside. Meanwhile, Redwood, engrossed by his discovery, administers a dose of the food to his infant son. The child's rapid growth shocks his mother, who is horrified to find her son towering over other children, a giant among ordinary humans. This new generation, nurtured by the food of the gods, grows up facing the intense scrutiny and fear of a society that views them as unnatural. The young giants are misunderstood, envied, and feared. People perceive them not as children or young men and women, but as an emerging threat. Conflicts grow as it becomes clear that society is unprepared to accept this sudden shift in the balance of power. In response to the giant creatures roaming the countryside, fearful townspeople organize hunts to eliminate the oversized animals, feeling that such aberrations threaten their way of life. Local officials and military forces are called upon, and the once peaceful farmlands become battlegrounds where people engage in skirmishes against these unnatural beasts. The enormous rats, roaming dogs, and even insects, now transformed by the growth compound, instill a palpable dread in nearby villages. It soon becomes evident that these creatures, beyond human control, represent the risks of meddling with the natural order. Public outcry and panic lead to a widespread rejection of science and distrust of those who pursue knowledge too far. The scientists themselves are accused of recklessness, having unleashed powers beyond their understanding. As the young giants mature, society's hostility toward them intensifies. Redwood's son and other children of his age are forced into isolation, treated as outcasts in a world that cannot contain them, both physically and socially. They live in a state of confinement, their very existence viewed as a symbol of rebellion against human limitations. Growing aware of their strength and size, the giants find themselves at odds with a world that resents them. The young Redwood, emboldened by his stature and the injustice he endures, begins to articulate his defiance, challenging the values of a society that would rather eliminate than understand him and his kind. Meanwhile, a struggle ensues between the giants and the authorities who wish to impose restrictions upon them. Politicians, motivated by fear and a desire to preserve order, impose strict measures on those who were once seen as innocent. The giants, determined to escape confinement, demand the right to live freely, calling upon the wisdom of Redwood and Bensington. They declare their intention to live without limits, refusing to bow to the fears of those who refuse to understand them. In this clash between the old world and the new, the giants press forward, symbolizing a new epoch of growth and knowledge unrestrained by tradition. The giants ultimately find solidarity with one another, recognizing that they are bound by their unique origin and shared plight. They organize themselves into a unified front, openly rejecting the limitations of a society they no longer feel bound to respect. As their numbers grow, so does their strength, and they begin constructing an enclave, a place where they may live unimpeded by the suspicions of others. But their vision of freedom is not one of violence. Rather, they aspire to a world where knowledge and progress are celebrated, where individuals are no longer restrained by fear or superstition. Redwood, deeply moved by his son's ideals, joins the giants in their quest for a future free of ignorance and constraint. Society, however, cannot easily accept such change. Towns and governments rally forces against the giants, preparing for war against what they perceive as an impending threat. With soldiers arrayed before them, the giants stand resolute, determined to fight not only for themselves, but for the right to exist without persecution. Redwood addresses the giants, urging them to use their knowledge and might to build a new world rather than destroy the old one. He implores humanity to embrace a vision that transcends fear, to recognize that the giants represent the next step in human evolution, a vision of growth without end. In the end, the giants stand undeterred, embodying the force of progress that will not be denied. They will not submit to the restrictions imposed by those who seek to limit human potential. Redwood's son, who towers above the masses as a beacon of this unyielding ambition, speaks to the crowd gathered below, declaring their right to exist, to explore, and to transform the world around them. His words echo across the landscape, a declaration of the right to pursue knowledge, to grow beyond the bounds of mere survival, and to shape a world where giants are no longer a threat, but a promise of what humanity might one day become. As they march forward, the giants cast their shadows upon the earth, embodying the spirit of unrestrained curiosity and the daring of scientific exploration. Unyielding, they press on toward a future where the unknown is not feared, but embraced. Their story leaves an indelible mark upon the world, a reminder that growth is as inevitable as it is transformative, and that the true measure of humanity lies in its capacity to evolve. That's a wrap, but the journey doesn't end. Explore more books by H.G. Wells. You'll find the details in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in H.G. Wells's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.